Hello, in this talk I'd like to compare the environmental credentials of electric cars and more usual internal combustion engine cars. We're told that electric cars are the future. They'll save the environment, stop polluting the air in urban environments, etc. But for many people it seems like electric cars are still a little bit too risky to buy. The distance they are able to travel is not really an exact science. The claimed figures from manufacturers are never quite the same as the real world of driving to wherever you're going, work, the supermarket. So there's always the worry that you'll run out of power before you reach your destination, and that's known as range anxiety. And even if you do reach your destination, will you be able to charge the battery when you get there, assuming the destination is not home? Now, Volkswagen are releasing a new electric-powered Golf. The Golf's a very popular car, and Volkswagen have kindly issued some statistics on its green credentials. So how much of a saviour is the car to the environment, and how much of a saviour will you be to the environment if you buy one of these new e-Golfs? At a cost of nearly £30,000, you'd expect it to be a good car. And you should also expect it to be kind to the planet. But in that last respect, I'm afraid you'd be wrong. Volkswagen's own research, which may be a little biased towards the new e-Golf, forms the basis of this talk. Environmental impact is measured in terms of CO2, or carbon dioxide emissions. As I'm sure you know, with a regular car that burns petrol or diesel, the car emits carbon dioxide when it's running. These emissions are measured by calculating the grams of CO2 emissions per kilometre driven. At first glance, the electric Golf does appear to be more environmentally friendly than the same model which is powered by diesel. An electric vehicle, when it's moving, produces no CO2, while the diesel version, for example, creates 111 grams of CO2 per kilometre. However, we must remember that the electric car does require charging after every 140 or so miles, which is about 225 kilometres. This charging creates about 62 grams of CO2 per kilometre, so that's about half of the diesel emissions. As a cost, VW estimate that an electric car costs 4 pence per mile to run, compared to 14 pence per mile for a standard petrol-driven car. That sounds quite attractive in terms of running costs and environmental impact, and we must remember that the emissions of the electric car are occurring away from urban areas in the power generation stations, rather than on the street outside, say a school, where emissions have major health implications for people, especially children. However, also remember that a standard petrol basic model Golf is cheaper than the electric version, about £7,000 cheaper. So the cost per mile maybe isn't such a big difference. Based on the figures I've just given about cost per mile, and an average annual mileage of 10,000, it would take 7 years of driving to recoup the difference in price between the petrol and electric versions of this Golf. However, the actual driving of a car or charging the battery of an electric car is not the only source of emissions. When a car is manufactured, there are also emissions created. And this is where the electric car has a much worse impact on the environment. To compare the actual emissions of an electric car and a regular car, we should measure emissions over the lifetime of the vehicle, and the lifetime includes the manufacturing. Volkswagen have kindly provided this information based on a lifetime of travelling 200,000 kilometres, which is about 124,000 miles. A diesel-powered Golf would emit 140 grams of CO2 per kilometre, on average, over its entire life cycle, compared to the e-Golf, which would emit 119 grams of CO2 per kilometre. A saving of just 21 grams per kilometre. Not a lot. In fact, for the first 120,000 kilometres of each car's life, the diesel-powered car is actually more environmentally friendly overall. And this is because most of the emissions for an electric car are produced during the production stage. You see, the production of the batteries for the electric car make up over 40% of the e-Golf's total carbon footprint. What we do not know is whether Volkswagen's statistics include any deterioration in the battery's ability to charge efficiently after a few years. You know how your mobile phone battery slowly becomes less useful and less efficient as the phone gets older. Electric vehicles also use lithium-ion batteries, which will lose their ability over some years. VW offer a warranty for the batteries of 100,000 miles or 161,000 kilometres or 8 years. You'll notice that length of time, 161,000 kilometres, is less than the expected lifetime of 200,000 kilometres. If the batteries did need replacing after 160,000 kilometres, the better environmental impact would be not quite but almost negated. So to conclude then, is it worth buying an electric vehicle? Well, yes and no, I guess. If most of your travel is within urban areas, the electric vehicle produces less noise pollution and less air pollution, so the impact on the people around you is wholly positive, although the immediate impact on your finances is less positive. If you travel longer distances between cities where other people are less affected by the air pollution from a regular car, then I would say the electric car's not really worth it. Of course, if you're travelling in and around a city for most of the time, you may want to consider a bicycle, even an electric bicycle, as an even more environmentally friendly form of transport, and one which is just as quick at rush hour. Thank you.